Hey everybody, it's James Quick, and today I want to tell you about two things, NPM and the Package.json file. Alright, so like I said, we're going to talk about two different things. So the first thing is NPM, which is the Node Package Manager. And actually, a little side story, I've read somewhere or saw in a video or something that NPM doesn't actually stand for Node Package Manager, but for the purposes of our conversation and for the purposes of your understanding of what it is, Node Package Manager is the most suitable thing. So you can kind of think of it as Node Package Manager even if it doesn't specifically stand for that. So one of the really beautiful things about web development is that the community is so big. For any project that you're working on, you very rarely have to build everything from scratch. For almost any scenario that you can think of, someone else out there has been through it and they've come up with some solution to a problem that you've got. So the idea is that you can leverage someone else's code that's been through that problem so that you don't have to do everything yourself. Now the idea of having like modular packages is not a new concept to web development. It's not exclusive to web development. For tons of different languages and platforms, you've got the same idea. For .NET, C#, you've got NuGet as your package manager. For Ruby on Rails, you've got the Ruby Gems, and I think it's rubygems.org for the package manager. So again, this is not a new concept per se, but Node Package Manager is becoming the de facto package manager for anything web development related. And I think it's really important to understand that even though it's called Node Package Manager, it doesn't exclusively mean that you use it for Node. In fact, you can use these packages and tooling that comes with them and not be doing any Node development yourself at all. And we'll kind of touch on what that means. So I'm here on the npmjs.com website. You guys can take a look around if you're interested, learn a little bit more. But I want to talk about the two different pieces of NPM. And the first is just the ability to search for packages. So let's say in here, if I want to search for Bootstrap, I could do a search for Bootstrap and it'll show me, if it'll pull up here, all the different packages that it's got. So it's got one for React, Angular UI, Bootstrap, Bootstrap Sass. Here's regular Bootstrap. And for most of these packages, you can come and look at the GitHub page, the website, the license that it has. You can look at statistics, so how many people have downloaded. You can kind of gauge. Every time I look at a package, I see how actively it's being downloaded. I take that as a good sign of a good package. So on the website, you guys can search for any of the packages that you can think of. Now the other piece of NPM is really the NPM CLI or command line interface. This gives you the ability to go out and download and install packages into products or projects that you're working on. So that's what we really want to take a look at next, and that really involves the package.json file. So let me switch over here, and you can actually, I've got it up here as a reference, this URL to look at documentation on the package.json as well, underneath the docs for NPM. And one more thing before we get going, NPM, the command line interface aspect of it is included in a download and install of Node. So if you guys do an install of Node for your operating system, I've got Mac here. If you're on Windows or Linux, you can do that. But when you download Node, you'll get NPM with that, so you'll be good. So let me slide over here. I'm in Visual Studio Code here. I've got an empty project. And I want to talk a little bit about what the package.json is, and then we'll create one and we'll edit one and we'll kind of go from there. So the package.json is basically a file that keeps important metadata or just information about your application or the project that you're working on. Pieces of metadata such as the name of the application or project, the version, the license. You can define scripts that you can run in your package.json. And then more importantly, or almost most importantly, dependencies on modules that your project needs to run, and we'll see how that works in a second. So I'm going to open up with command tilde. I'm going to open up, or actually, sorry, control tilde. I'm going to open up the integrated terminal here, and inside of this directory, I don't have any files. Now I can do an npm init. Again, you get npm with an install of Node, and this will walk me through the steps to create a base package.json file. So it's going to ask me several questions. So what's the name of it? It's going to take the folder name that we're in. So test, I say yes, that's okay, enter. Version is 1.0. Cool. Descriptions. This is a test package.json file working with npm. Entry point. So entry point is going to be your, let's say you're actually running some sort of an actual Node application. Then the entry point could be, you know, the file that gets run when you want to run this Node application. So I'm going to do call it server.js instead of entry point. Test command I'll leave the same. We'll talk about commands in a minute. Your Git repository if you've got this connected to GitHub or something like that. Keywords, we can do Node, npm, whatever you want to do. Author James Q Quick. License I'll do MIT. Does all this look okay? Yes. And then if I do, and you notice it popped up here, if I do an ls here, we'll see I've got the package.json here. Now if I go ahead and open it, we should see exactly what we saw down here. So the general information that we entered, the name, version, description. We've also got this section for scripts that we'll come back to later, author, and license. So before we do a little bit more, I do want to also show you guys, let me get out of this and I'm going to remove that package.json that we just did. And if you do an npm init -y, it'll go ahead and basically say yes to all the defaults. But so it went ahead and generated that package.json and just took all the defaults and assumed we said yes. So now if we look at the package.json and have it pop up here, we should see just the default information. There's no keywords here. Index.js instead of server, so I'm going to change that to server. Just save that, and then we should be okay. All right, so the big beauty in using your package.json is being able to define dependencies. So let's first use npm to install a package. So let's say we wanted to use Bootstrap. We could do npm install and do Bootstrap, and that will go out and get all the files for Bootstrap. It will create this Node modules folder, and inside of it, we'll see that there's a Bootstrap directory which has all the files that we would need. Now, not only do we install the package itself, we also install any dependencies that package has. So if we do npm install with something like Grunt has several packages that it's dependent upon. So it's going to install not only Grunt, but all of its dependencies as well. So this is, again, one of the benefits of a package manager, that I didn't have to go out and download each of these different, and there's a lot of them, each of these different packages individually. I just said, give me Grunt, and it pulled in everything that I needed. So if we look at Node modules now, there's a ton of different packages in here. So we've seen here how we can install a couple of packages. I really want to talk about the dependencies in the package.json. So let's see what this really means. Let's do an npm install of Bootstrap again, but this time I want to do --save. --save flag means that it's going to save it in your package.json as a dependency. So we can see right here, dependencies, and then Bootstrap, and then it gives some version information here as well. Now you'll see a couple of different characters right here. Right here we have the caret. If I'm not mistaken, the caret will allow you to upgrade to minor releases, but won't let you upgrade to major releases. That way you're pretty sure that you're not going to get a breaking update to one of your packages. And you can specify if you only want to do patch releases, or if you want to do anything including the major release as well, but that's kind of risky because, again, there could be API changing versions with major releases. All right, so we've got a dependency declare here. Now let's think about, we installed Grunt. Grunt is something that we're only going to use when we're doing development, not in our production application. So we can actually do npm install grunt --save dev. Now that's going to do the same thing as dependencies, but it's going to do dev dependencies instead. All right, we should see it pop up here. Here's Grunt labeled in our dev dependencies. And if at any point we want to get rid of one of these, we can do an uninstall Bootstrap, for example, and this will go out and uninstall it. And notice I didn't do a save, so it still got it here in my package.json. I could also do uninstall Grunt, which will go ahead and remove all of those files. And if we look in Node modules, notice I don't have anything. Now the real beauty of defining these dependencies in your package.json is that if I want to let someone else work on my project, they don't have to manually go out and get packages. They don't have to manually go out and match versions. They can take a package.json file, with no modules installed, and they can simply run npm install, and that will go out and read from these dependencies and install all the things that I need. So in this case, it's going to get Bootstrap, and it's going to get Grunt, and it's going to get all the dependencies of Grunt and pull them all back into the Node modules folder. So now we're back where we were, and this is the beauty of it. I don't have to pass around a bunch of packages. I don't have to check them into source code. I can just give them a package.json and let them download and install all the dependencies. So in addition to installing packages and then saving them as dependency or dev dependency, you can also install some packages globally. Now, NodeMon is one of those packages. It's one that looks at a server file and it reloads the server if the server file changes. So I'm going to do npm install -g NodeMon, and this is going to go out and install this package, not in this local node modules folder, but in a global one on my hard drive. So if I actually do an ls and do node modules again, we should see that NodeMon is not listed where the ends. NodeMon is not listed here. It'll be somewhere else, but I can still use it. So I'm going to do something real quick. I'm going to set up a server.js. I'm going to do install express, npm install express -- save. And then I'll create a basic express app. So var express equals require express var app equals express. And then express.listen. I'm going to do it on port 3000. And then I'm just going to log when we are listening. Oops, sorry about that. Console log listening on port 3000. All right, so we've got a little server file here, and I want to talk a little bit about scripts. So we've got, on scripts, we've got an alias test that does basically just kind of a dummy echo. One of the things we can do is we can do a start script, and that start script can, let's say we want to use NodeMon, and we want to watch for changes on our server.js. So the alias here will be start, and then the actual script will be NodeMon server.js. So let's save that, and then let's do an npm start. Oh, and instead of express listen, this should be app. Now, notice this one thing. When I save this file, this server should get reloaded since NodeMon is watching for it. If you haven't used NodeMon before and you do node development, you should probably check it out. But I'm going to save this server, and now see that it opened up successfully. It's listening on port 3000. And if I make any changes here to say add in some dummy stuff here, it's going to reload it and it's going to spit it out to the console, which is really, really cool. So back to, I'm going to close that. Back to this idea of doing scripts. There are a couple of keywords that are built in. Test and start allow you to just run those with npm start. Now, if I change this to start server and saved it and tried to do npm start server, I'm going to get an error that it's not recognized. So to do anything other than test and start and a couple of other, I think, predefined keywords, you do npm run and then the name of your alias. So npm run start server. And now we should get that same thing where it's going to start NodeMon and print everything out. All right, so those are scripts. You can get very detailed with those. You can do a lot of different things with running your server, doing some building of your production assets. A lot of cool stuff that you can do once you start getting creative. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is if you ever want to see what all packages you have installed, you can do an npm ls, and that's going to show me all of the packages that I have in that node modules folder, and there's a lot of them. You can also specify a depth of 0, and this will only show you the ones that you chose to install. So these are the ones that I specifically didn't install. All those other ones are dependencies of these 3. You can also do npm ls of global, so I can see all the global ones that I've got here in a second. All right, so you can see all of those, and then if I do the same thing and then do a depth of 0 again, it'll show me just the ones that I specifically decided to install. All right, there we go. Okay, So that's really a really quick intro to NPM Node Package Manager and the Package.json, how you can use both of them to install, uninstall, update packages, keep track of your dependencies in your Package.json, define scripts in your Package.json. And again, these two, I guess a tool and a file here, really common in all of web development. You almost can't not come across it these days. It's going to be so common. You're going to want to be familiar with it if you're doing any sort of web development. So I hope this gave you guys a good idea of what it's used for, how it can be used. There's more to it, but I think we covered the basics definitely enough to get started. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you come back and check out more videos.